The night everything fell apart is burned into my memory like a scar. I was sitting at the dinner table with my parents, my sister, and my girlfriend, Claire. She was smiling sweetly, acting like the perfect partner, when she suddenly dropped a bomb that would alter my life for years. With a trembling voice and fake tears in her eyes, she told my family I had hurt her, not just emotionally, but physically. I froze. My fork slipped from my hand and clattered against the plate. My mother gasped, my father's face twisted in fury, and my sister immediately started comforting Claire as though she were the victim of some monstrous crime. I tried to speak, to say it wasn't true, but Claire kept crying and spinning her story. Every word from her mouth was a dagger in my chest. "Get out," my father growled. "We won't tolerate this under our roof." It felt like the world collapsed around me. One lie. Just one poisonous lie. And my family, the people I loved most, believed her without hesitation. I walked out that night with nothing but the clothes on my back and a hollow ache in my chest, wondering how quickly love could turn into betrayal. But I didn't know then, years later, they would see who she really was. The first months after being cut off were the darkest of my life. I kept waiting for someone from my family to call, to ask for my side, to at least question whether Claire's story made sense. But the phone stayed silent. My texts were left undelivered, and when I showed up at my parents' house once, my dad opened the door just enough to say, "Leave us alone, son. You made your choices." I hadn't made any choice. A choice had been made for me by a woman who wanted control, and my family had swallowed her lie whole. I ended up crashing on a friend's couch for weeks, then picking up extra shifts at work just to afford a tiny apartment. I walked around with this constant weight in my chest, like I was guilty of something I hadn't done. At night, I'd lie awake, hearing my mom's voice in my head, trembling as she said, "How could you, after everything?" It was easier for them to believe Claire than to believe me. That truth cut deeper than anything else. Still, life had to move on. I worked, I saved, I tried to rebuild. And while my family treated me like a stranger, Claire disappeared from their lives almost as quickly as she had come into mine. She had gotten what she wanted, to ruin me, and then she was gone. What I didn't know was that the same lies she used on me, she was already using on someone else. 2 years passed before I even heard Claire's name again. By then, I had a stable job and a small but comfortable apartment. I was no longer living off instant noodles, but the emptiness in my chest never really left. Family birthdays, holidays, even random Sundays, all those moments I used to share with them were gone. One night, a friend from college called me out of the blue. "Hey man, didn't you used to date Claire?" His tone carried a mix of pity and disgust. My stomach tightened. "Yeah," I said cautiously. "Why?" He sighed. "She's with a buddy of mine now. And, well, she's pulling the same tricks. Crying, telling stories about how he mistreats her, how no one understands her. But the thing is, people are starting to notice the inconsistencies. She's good, but not perfect at keeping her lies straight." Hearing that lit something inside me. For years, I had doubted myself, replaying that dinner over and over, wondering if there was something I could have done differently. But now I realized it was never me. It was always her. Claire didn't just lie. She built entire realities around her lies. And one by one, she left wreckage behind her. That night, I lay awake not in pain, but in anger. Anger at how my family had never even tried to hear my side. Anger at how easily they abandoned me. But also, for the first time, a flicker of hope. Because if Claire was finally slipping, it meant the truth might one day crawl its way to the surface. The real turning point came 5 years later. By then, I had stopped checking my phone for messages from my parents or my sister. I had built a new life, a better one, in fact. I had friends who trusted me, colleagues who respected me, and a sense of self-worth that no one could take away again. Then one Sunday morning, I walked into a cafe and nearly dropped my coffee when I saw her, Claire. She was sitting alone, hair slightly messy, makeup smudged, looking nothing like the polished, perfect liar I remembered. For a second, I thought about leaving, pretending I hadn't seen her. But she noticed me first. Her smile was weak, hesitant. "Hey, it's been a long time." I wanted to laugh in her face, but instead, I just said, "Not long enough." She leaned forward, her voice lower. "I know I hurt you, but they know now. Your family. They know what I did." My chest tightened. What do you mean they know? She sighed and looked down at her hands. I slipped up. I told too many stories. Said too many things that didn't match. They started asking questions. Then, well, I got caught in another lie. This time, they didn't take my side. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. After all the years of silence, could it really be true? Had the truth finally reached them without me lifting a finger? I walked out of that cafe, without another word to her. My hands were shaking, not with fear, but with the weight of something I hadn't felt in years. Vindication. I didn't run to my family right away. Part of me wanted to, but another part held back. After all, they had chosen to cut me off without even asking for my side. Now that the truth was out, I wasn't sure if I even wanted their apology. But fate decided for me. A few weeks later, I was walking home from work when I heard someone call my name. I turned, and there was my sister, Emily. Her face was pale, her eyes red-rimmed, like she had been crying for days. "Please," she said breathless, "don't walk away. Just give me 5 minutes." I froze. My instinct screamed at me to keep going, but something in her voice made me stop. We ended up sitting on a bench near the park, the streetlights buzzing faintly above us. "I need to tell you I'm sorry," she whispered. "We were wrong. I was wrong. I believed her without proof, without even listening to you. I thought I was protecting you, but really, I was protecting her lies." Her words cut deeper than I expected. I wanted to shout, to demand why she hadn't trusted her own brother. But when I looked at her, I saw the guilt eating her alive. "Mom and Dad know too," she added softly. "They want to see you. They've been trying to figure out how to reach you. But we don't deserve forgiveness, I know." For years, I had dreamed of hearing those words. But sitting there on that cold bench, I realized forgiveness wasn't as simple as saying sorry. A week later, I found myself standing outside my parents' house, the same door that had once been slammed in my face. My palms were sweating, my chest tight. Part of me wanted to turn around and never look back. But I knocked anyway. My mom opened the door, and for a moment, it was like time had rewound. She looked older, thinner, but her eyes filled instantly with tears. "Oh, my boy," she whispered, her voice breaking. Dad appeared behind her. His expression was harder, lined with guilt, but I could see the shame in his eyes. For the first time in years, I stepped inside that house. It smelled the same, the faint scent of coffee and the wooden polish my mom always used. But everything felt different. We sat at the dining table, the very same place where Claire had destroyed me with her lies. The silence was heavy until my father finally spoke. "We failed you. We should have asked questions. We should have trusted you. Instead, we believed a stranger over our own blood." Hearing him say that, the man who once told me to get out sent a storm of emotions through me. Anger, relief, sadness, vindication. I didn't forgive them right away. I couldn't, but I listened. They told me how Claire's lies had eventually unraveled, how she used the same tactics with others, how contradictions piled up until the truth was undeniable. And when the truth came out, so did their regret. I left that night with more questions than answers. Could we ever go back to being a family again? Or was the damage too deep? In the days that followed, my family tried to close the gap that years of silence had created. Emily called me almost every day, sometimes just to ask how my day was going, sometimes to share memories of when we were kids. It felt strange, comforting, and painful at the same time. My mom invited me over for dinner the following Sunday. I hesitated, but eventually agreed. Sitting at that same table again was surreal. This time, there was no Claire, no lies, just my family staring at me with the heaviness of everything unsaid. Mom served the food with trembling hands. "I kept your favorite recipes," she said softly, "in case you ever came back." For a moment, I couldn't speak. It was such a simple gesture, but it broke something inside me. Dad cleared his throat. "We don't expect you to forgive us quickly. Maybe not ever. But we want to try. If you'll let us." I stared at them both. Part of me wanted to shout, to demand why they hadn't fought for me when I needed them most. But another part, a quieter part, saw the cracks in their armor. They weren't the powerful, judgmental figures I remembered. They were just two parents who had made a terrible mistake, and who were finally paying the price for it. That night, I didn't forgive them. But I also didn't walk away. And that, I think, was the beginning of something new. Rebuilding trust was like walking on broken glass. Every step was careful, painful, and slow. My parents wanted to make up for lost years, but there was no way to simply erase what had happened. Sometimes when Mom hugged me, I stiffened without meaning to. Sometimes when Dad tried to give advice, I remembered the night he told me to leave and never come back. But there were small moments too, moments that reminded me of the bond we used to have. Emily invited me to her apartment one evening, and we sat on the couch watching old home videos. The grainy footage of birthdays and family vacations played on the screen, and for the first time in years, I laughed with her. Then one afternoon, while visiting my parents, we received unexpected news. Claire had been arrested in another state. Fraud, false claims, manipulation. It was all finally catching up to her. My sister showed me the article on her phone, her hands shaking. "She ruined so many lives," Emily whispered. I stared at the screen, her smiling mugshot glaring back at me. It should have felt like justice. But strangely, all I felt was exhaustion. She had already taken so much from me. Knowing she was finally exposed didn't give me the satisfaction I thought it would. Instead, I looked at my family, their regret, their attempts at healing, and realized the truth. Claire had destroyed me once. I wasn't going to let her destroy me again by holding onto the bitterness forever. The months after Claire's arrest brought a strange calm. My family seemed almost desperate to prove they were different now. Mom called me every Sunday morning just to hear my voice. Dad started showing up at my apartment unannounced with bags of groceries or tools, offering to fix things that didn't even need fixing. Emily insisted on inviting me to every gathering, even the small ones. I won't lie, part of me enjoyed watching them try so hard. But another part of me still carried the wound. Trust isn't a switch you can flip back on. It's a door that had been bolted shut for years, and every attempt to open it creaked with the memory of betrayal. One evening, over dinner, my dad finally asked the question I had been waiting for. "Do you hate us?" I set my fork down. The silence at the table was heavy. I did, I admitted. For a long time. But hate, it eats you alive. And I've had enough of being eaten alive by other people's lies. My mom started crying quietly. Emily reached across the table and squeezed my hand. For the first time, I didn't pull away. It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet. But it was a step, a fragile, trembling step towards something that looked a little like peace. It took years to rebuild, but in the end, I realized something powerful. Family isn't perfect, and trust, once broken, never looks the same when it's repaired. It's scarred, but it can still hold. We never pretended those dark years didn't happen. Sometimes at family dinners, I'd catch Mom looking at me with that guilty softness in her eyes. Sometimes Dad would get quiet whenever the past came up, as if he wished he could rewrite it. Emily, more than anyone, tried to make up for it with loyalty and honesty. And me? I learned that my worth was never theirs to decide. Claire's lie had cost me years of pain, but it had also forced me to grow stronger than I ever imagined. One holiday evening, as we sat around the table again, the same table where my world had once shattered, I looked at my family and realized something. I didn't feel bitterness anymore. I didn't feel the ache of betrayal. What I felt was choice. The choice to stay. The choice to accept their efforts, however flawed, and to let the past be part of us, not the end of us. Claire's lie had almost destroyed me. But the truth, when it finally surfaced, didn't just set me free. It showed me that even after the worst betrayals, you can still choose how your story ends. And I chose not to let her be the last chapter of mine.